Welcome to Spotlight on the Arts. I'm Patrick Cristiano, your host, the publisher of TheaterLife.com, and I have a really special guest today, my friend Daryl Roth, the producer of seven. You have the distinguished honor of having produced seven Pulitzer Prize winning plays. Wow. And 13 Tony Awards, 125 productions. It's extraordinary, Daryl. Thank you so much for coming to do this. It's my pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And of course, I have to keep in mind I've been doing this for 32 years. So all of those lovely accolades that you credit me with are wonderful, but it's over a long period of time. Happily.
And you have an amazing, two amazing shows that you're a part of that are running on Broadway that we're going to talk about. The Life of Pi, which is extraordinary, and Funny Girl as well. But we really want to focus on The Life of Pi because it's only opened a little while ago. It's come from London. It's based on a novel that's amazing that I wasn't familiar with. You tell us.
Yeah.
How did this come to be?
The novel that you reference is an amazing story written by Jan Martel, a Canadian writer. It was first published in 2001, which is when I read it so many years ago. And it sold over 15 million copies worldwide. That's how popular this beautiful story is. It was also made into a film by Ang Lee, which actually I never saw. But how it came to be a theatrical event is that it was produced in London, first in Sheffield, and then on the West End. And I was called by the producer of the West End production, Simon Friend, a producer that I've known over the years. And he said that they'd like to bring it to Broadway, and would I be interested in, being his Broadway producing partner.
How cool.
How very cool. I was very honored. At that point, I had not seen it in London because I hadn't traveled there because of COVID and whatnot.
But you had read the book, so you knew what the story, what it was, the power of it.
Yeah, but I did get myself on a plane right away, and I did go see the production in London, and I was so overwhelmed by not only the story, which is breathtaking, but the stagecraft and the magic of telling the story, which is like nothing we've seen, really.
I have never, I've been going to the theater since I'm a child, and I have seen bits and pieces of what they do on that stage, here and there in productions, but I have never seen a production in its entirety that relied upon all this magic to make it come to life, along with the performances and all that. But I kept thinking, I've never seen anything like this ever, and completely. So go on. I don't
really. It's true. The closest thing in terms of the puppetry, which people understand as how the animals come to life, the closest thing that I ever saw was Warhorse, which had these amazing puppets that were inhabited by very talented puppeteers, and they brought them to life. But this production, I feel as though the animals have an emotional core. They have emotions and feelings and responses to the story that you sort of forget they're puppets. And that's to credit the puppeteers who work their magic and also make the sounds and make the movements that make you truly believe that you are in the presence of an animal that has, a life force.
Feelings too.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, many times when I was sitting there in the audience, things that happened to the animals that showed they had feelings, the audience moaned or groaned or had a reaction to what had happened.
Well, you do, because you so believe in them. You believe that they're, this whole story, I should say, is a fictionalized fantasy, basically. I mean, the book was a book of fiction, but the way it comes to life is truly real. And, the story itself, just going back to that, is about this young boy, Pi, who goes with his family on a cargo ship with all these animals because his family ran a zoo in India. So that's why the animals are on the ship. And the ship is, there's a shipwreck. And Pi is the only survivor with 4 animals on a lifeboat in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. I mean, that's the simplest, storyline. And so what this becomes is an epic journey that he's taking, but it is really very spiritual. And as a young
the themes blew me away because you have the spiritual theme about the religion, because he's in 2 different religious worlds and people are trying to get him to be in different places, and he's saying, isn't it all the same? Aren't they? We're all going to go to the place. What difference does it make what we believe until we get there? And there are 2 or 3 times throughout the play he calls out to God to help him and it's the other thing that was so beautiful. It's about facing your fears and the things that we think we cannot do, and how when in the moment we do what we have to do sometimes, and we find the strength. I thought it was so beautiful how the ghosts of his teacher,
yes,
came to him in the moments when he needed strength to guide him.
Exactly. And that's why I think even as a young boy in the story, he was always questioning, why can't I believe in this? Why can't I believe in that? Religions pretend to be all different, but basically at the core, it's very much, the same spirituality. But in terms of overcoming fears, I mean, this story is amazing. There's a line, actually, it's from the book, that says, only fear can defeat life. Only fear can defeat life. And I think that the story of perseverance and hope and the faith that he had overcame all the fear. And I think that we as an audience sometimes, we internalize a lot of what we see on stage, which is why theater is so powerful. And I think that many of us have had to face fears, whether it's health challenges or situations in our lives, but none of us probably have had to face the fear that this young boy is facing in the middle of the ocean.
The challenges, yes.
The challenges, but we can key into something that may have happened to us and sort of get strength from his belief and his spirituality, and the fact that he always believed that he would make it through with all of these crazy, amazing, challenges. So fear is a big part of the story, but more than the fear for me, what I always come away from feeling is the faith and the hope and the endurance, the perseverance, all of those things that we as normal people have to tap into every day, right?
To be successful, to keep going, to show up,
just to live, just to get through life.
Yeah, again. And as Betty Davis used to say, old age ain't for sissies. It doesn't get easier; it only gets more challenging.
So when you see a story like this come to life on stage, I think it's transcendent, honestly, to me. And I think the audience responds to the story, but they respond to the beautiful acting. The young man, Haran, who is our actor playing Pi, actually was the Pi in the West End and won an Olivier Award for his performance. We're very lucky to have him. And there are 26 other magnificent actors in this cast. And of course,
before we went on air, we were talking about him and how extraordinary he is. And I shared with you that this morning I had been grappling with the quality, because his quality touches on so many different things that you can't put your finger on exactly what it is. And there's an innocence. And I discovered that it's like a puppy, like a puppy that hasn't been damaged in any way, that's full of joy and innocence and excitement. And he has that quality about everything he's doing all the time.
He does. I think it's so interesting that you pinpoint that, because his performance is amazing, but there is that sense of wonder, that sense of curiosity and belief and just the wonderment that he, as an actor, makes us feel. I think that's what you tapped into with, the puppy-like quality, because with it all, he's just, I don't know, has the ability to just take us by the hand and bring us into the story with the same exuberance and enthusiasm and every emotion that he feels.
But you know what else is fabulous is how it translates physically, because it's all in his physicality too. It's not just in his emotional life. It becomes. Let's show them the reel. Here's a perfect time to show them the little reel that we have from the Life of Pi. Can we have it, Jody?
Okay. The truth of the matter is he's so physical. It's amazing to me. He's so lifelike. He's bouncing around and jumping around, and he does it with such ease. And yet,
grace too. It's graceful.
Grace. That's right. He's very graceful. He's almost like an athlete in a way.
Yes.
Like a gymnast or something.
Yes.
You know,
it's extraordinary, and his performance matches all the other extraordinary elements. Now, what I found so mind-boggling is the simplicity of what's done to create the magic. It's not razzle-dazzle at all. I mean, you have very little projections, very minimal.
Well, actually, there are quite a few projections, but they're so natural, and they fall into the setting between the lighting designer, the projection designer, the video designer, the music, the sound. Everything comes together in such a natural way that you don't necessarily, you're not, you know, it doesn't jump out at you except when it's meant to. Like there's this gorgeous scene of the storm on the boat, which is breathtaking. And all of those creative elements come together. And so that's a time in the play where everybody gasps and says, oh my gosh, how did they do that? So that's the magic of it all. But there are times, apropos of what you're saying, where it just feels so natural. We see fish in the water. We see a turtle walking by as he's on his lifeboat. These things just happen. They're so fantastical. They're so, the imagination of the adapter, who is amazing, Lolita Chakrabarty, and the director, Max Webster, have put together, along with the other creative designers that I'm mentioning, a story that is like magic come to life.
It is. It's phenomenal. Yeah. What was I going to say? Max Weber. It's brilliant what he's done. Now, how let's talk about the puppets, because there are so many animals. I mean, it's just mind-boggling, all the animals that were there. There's the Bengal tiger. There's the zebra, the black and white zebra. There's monkeys. There's how many? There's 8 different puppeteers doing all this.
8 different puppeteers, and they all manage the different puppets. They work together like a choreographed dance, really, as you can imagine, because every movement of every puppet has to be aligned. And of course, they can't talk to each other. So they have learned this almost like a beautiful dance so that they work together. On the ship, there is Richard Parker, who is the Royal Bengal tiger. He's our main character. There's an orangutan. There is a zebra, as you mentioned, and a hyena. And then realizing that they came from a zoo. They came from a zoo in India. So in the beginning of the show, when we meet the family and we meet Pi in India before they go on the ship, we see pieces of the zoo. There's a beautiful giraffe puppet, and there are monkeys, as you say, and there are all different beautiful puppets that come to life in the zoo. So it's kind of breathtaking. And we feel for these animals. as much as we feel for the real characters in the show.
Yeah, but one of the points I wanted to make, about the projections, even though there are a lot of them, that they're so natural, like you said. You don't go, oh, there's a projection. You don't even feel like a projection is happening. It feels like just a part of the scene. You don't see it. You go, oh, yeah, it's like almost an afterthought. Oh, that was a projection, but you don't. And the moment that it's happening, you're enveloped in what's happening on the stage, so you don't ever think about that a projection is coming
That's
up.
right. It comes upon us in such a natural way. And it's a way of the way they've been designed and animated. It's a combination, as I said, of the lighting, the sound, the music. Everything works together in the visual effects so that it sort of envelops you. It's not like, okay, here's a video.
Yeah. I know.
It comes upon you as part of the storytelling, and it enhances the storytelling. It makes it exciting, and it almost takes your breath away in various moments. I've seen it so many times now, but every time some particular thing happens, I say, oh my God, it just takes your breath away.
I got to see it twice, and I had the same feeling too. Several times in different things. The second time, affected me in different kinds of ways.
Yes.
You know what else? There's two other things I want to hit on too and talk about it, as well as the transitions that they make from,
yes.
he's from his experience, he's traumatized and he's in the hospital, and the nurse and the guy who wants to, the reporter,
right,
who wants to record what has happened there with him, and he doesn't want to come out, but because he's still really,
he is traumatized. Yes,
story, right?
Yeah, we have to keep in mind he was floating in the Pacific Ocean for 227 days. 227 days. Right. And when they find him, he is taken to this hospital where the reporter is trying to get information for the insurance company who is dealing with the sinking of the ship. So, of course, they're asking Pi, as the only survivor, what happened? What is your story? And the nurse is coming in and out. And then there is the social worker person who is sort of trying to be more kind to him, as the insurance person is being very abrupt and just trying to get the facts of the story. Just tell me the story. And this is how it begins. This is how it unfolds, that we realize the trauma that he's endured. But then when we go back into the story with him, it becomes this beautiful, magical story. And then it takes place in 3 places. The show takes place, as you mentioned, in the hospital, which is in Mexico. It takes place in India, where we begin, where the family has the zoo. And then most of the story takes place in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So the 3 scene changes are quite magnificent in the way that they transition. We go back and forth. And again, that's the magic of this creative team, having us, go from place to place seamlessly.
What was especially powerful for me, besides these wonderful transitions, were the transitions from the hospital to the raging sea, and the way the bed would transform into a raft and stage doors would drop and people. It was, and it would be, because you were in the hospital setting and it was calm, and then all of a sudden it would be the sea, and when they would make the transition back after a raging storm or something, and coming back to the hospital, and it would be it was all done so beautifully and so seamless. It was just stunning. Stunning.
I think that's exactly right. And the beauty of the stagecraft, which it just has to be admired on so many levels. It's hard to even imagine how these creative minds come up with this. I'm always in awe of
the other theme that I thought was so relevant is the one of forgiveness. How he had to learn to forgive the tiger to be able to coexist with him in the boat and survive. And
that's a big theme. That's a very big theme. I think that's what we come away with. Everything that went on, everything he experienced, that he found as part of his faith and as part of his spirituality, the ability to forgive and the ability to coexist. I think you're right to point that out. That's a very beautiful part of the play, a part of the story, which, again, I think resonates with the audience deeply.
Now, when you first read the book many, many years ago, did all this resonate with you then, or does it take a lifetime to get this wisdom?
You know, it resonated with me, I'm sure, as a person sitting reading a really interesting book. And I'm always someone who is drawn to stories with animals. So,
Me too.
I love that. I love that. But it took seeing it on stage in this theatrical portrayal to bring it to life in a different way, I think, to make me think about it differently. And of course, I'm much older now too. And you know, life has happened in different ways. And it became more real in a way for me personally. I think getting to see this, getting to realize how much the story jumps off the stage, you know. So reading a book is your imagination, and you take yourself to those places. And I'm sure seeing the film, which again I mentioned, I have not seen the film. That's very visual, and you're there. But seeing it on stage, brought to life with actors and the craft of the designers, makes it so urgent and so real and awesome that I think that for me, this production has brought the story to me with a different meaning, maybe even more emotional than I remember years ago reading the book, I would say.
You said you read it how long ago?
I remember reading it when it first came out because I kept hearing about it. So that's, you know, more than 20 years ago.
Okay, so you weren't a young child. You were mature yourself at the time.
Yeah. It came out in 2001, I believe. So I must have read it soon around then because I was, you know, I imagine.
Well, thank you, because I wasn't familiar with it. I didn't know anything about it without you and the people in London tagging it. I would have never been.
I'm so glad that you came to it. What I really love also is that it's wonderful that this book is taught in schools, and it has so many lessons for young people to learn, really. We have a lot of families that are coming, not with young children, because as you know, there are parts of it that are not appropriate for very young children, but 10, 12-year-olds coming with their families. I see the joy and the delight, and that's wonderful. The play itself is good for all generations, really. And many people that are in the audience have read the book and know the story, or have seen the film and know the story, so they're drawn to it.
Is it an open run?
Yes.
So we can. There's going to be. And how's it doing?
Hopefully it will run a while.
It's doing well.
It's doing very well. We were very lucky that the reviews were across the board fabulous. You have to look to the theater gods in the hope that people, critique the work in the way that you believe it should be. And I think in this case, we were all very fortunate, very grateful. The reviews were fabulous.
We loved it. We had great reviews on our website, Theater Life. I think gave you 4.5 or 5 stars, both of the reviews that we posted, and I really give it a 5 for sure. I give it 5 for sure, rather.
It's definitely a 5-star production, no question about it.
And the award seasons are just around the corner. I suspect you'll be nominated for quite a few things as we just find out what those things are going to be like.
I hope so. I hope we are. I certainly think the play is deserving of many awards, certainly.
I think so too. And it looks like
it's always a competitive.
We didn't show the video. We didn't show that we're running out of time, and I forgot to show the video. So let's do this before we go off the air. We have the puppeteers with one of the main character, Richard Parker, who is the nemesis that's in the boat with Pi, the tiger. And the puppeteers are walking him on the red carpet at the opening. And the director, Max Weber, is standing right there next to them. So could we show that real quickly, Jody, before we go off? That gives you a little taste of what the tiger looks like.
Right. Well, the opening night was lots of fun, and we thought it would be, a nice idea to have our star, Richard Parker, our Royal Bengal tiger, walk the red carpet. So that was fun. You don't often see that, along with our beautiful cast, of course.
Daryl, thank you so much. This was fabulous. People can find this very easily. Just go to the Life of Pi. How do you find it on the website?
Yeah, well, it's playing at the Schoenfeld Theater, and we have Life of Pi Broadway. We have wonderful notices online. People can find us under Life of Pi Broadway.
Very easy to get there. Both times I've seen it, the house was sold out, so get your tickets in advance because you might not get to see it otherwise.
And I will say that it's wonderful from wherever you are in the theater, but I actually will say that the seats in the mezzanine are quite wonderful because you get a view of the boat and the sea from a different angle, so sometimes people think, oh, I can only get my orchestra seats. Not true in this case. You get a different view from wherever you are in the theater, and it's quite glorious. So thank you for wanting to talk about Life of Pi, and thank you for coming, and thank you for inviting me.
Oh, and thank you so much for doing it. I look forward to seeing you around the summer and at the theater. And we will see you at the theater.
See you at the theater, as they say.
Thank you again, Daryl.
Thanks, Patrick. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
He's adorable. He's adorable.